lost relatives. Most of us have faced pain and heartache in our life. True? And it is in those moments when we raise our eyes to heaven and say, if you are there, why is this mess going on? Some years ago, a couple of years ago, I was running a program in the RSL in Penrith. And there was a good group of attending. We were studying the prophecies of the Bible. And there was a woman that came almost every night. She used to love the programs. And the evening that I presented this topic, she was listening so attentively. And at the end of the program, she almost came running to talk to me and then said, Pastor Sam, she said, this topic has just changed my whole perspective in life. I said, what happened? Tell me the story. She says, I grew up as a Christian in a Presbyterian home. And my parents used to be faithful Presbyterians. They used to go to church every week. And I grew up, loving God. But when I came to the teenage years, I started wondering about the love of God and the horrible mess there was on this world. And I could not answer it. I could not give a logical answer to my reasonings. And they drove me to despair, to the point that I turned my back on God. I never turned my back on the belief of God, but I turned my back on the whole idea of religion and God because I blamed God for all the suffering, pain, and heartaches of my life, and what was I seeing around me? It was too much for me. And tonight, for first time in my life, I can stop blaming God, and I have come to the realization that He is not the one to blame. And so, dear friends, tonight, or I keep saying tonight, thinking that it's night, but it's afternoon. This afternoon, we are going to explore one of the most mysterious topics that you can ever talk about. And I guarantee you that if you follow me in the topic this afternoon, when you leave out of this church, you are going to be a different person and you will never see reality in the same way. Are you willing to take the challenge? Yes? Well, I'm glad you are, because when I discovered this topic, I discovered that when I was very young. I grew up in a Christian home, and I had the joy of sitting one day in one of my dad's Bible studies, and he talked about that. And for me, it saved me of so much pain in my life. The fact that I knew that it was not God who caused all the pain. It's just absolutely wonderful to come to that realization. Today we are going to go into the origin of evil. We are going to go into eons of time that our human mind cannot comprehend. In order to understand and find out about the origin of evil, there is only one book in the whole of the world that will give you an explanation, and it is the Bible. And in order to understand this, you and I must go back into the history of the universe to a time, I don't know how long before this world was created, but to a time before the creation of this world. And I'd like to invite you to come with me to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel chapter 28. It is in this chapter that God left the knowledge of what happened right at the beginning of the history of the universe that gave origin to evil. You and I come to Ezekiel chapter 28, and we'll begin our reading in verse 12. It says, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre. Remember, as I read in the scriptures, you can follow me on the screen, okay? Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Lord God. So the message that prophet Ezekiel is going to write is not something that he has invented. This comes from where? From God. Because Ezekiel says, this is what God says. And notice what the message given to Ezekiel at that time was. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. Now, that text is telling us, is talking to us, God is describing for us in that text something that took place, we do not know when, but it is the creation of an angel. Did you get that out of the text? And the angel, according to the text, this angel occupies a really high position in heaven. He is an anointed cherub. Did you see that in the text? If we go back to the text, you will find here that after the description of his creation, the prophet says, the workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. You were the anointed cherub who covers. As we study the scriptures, you will find out that there are only 4 of these angels. And this angel was one of them. Now, when you read the text, you also discover that this angel, this cherub, now do you know who angels are? Angels are a creation of God who are higher than man. They are spiritual beings. When I say they are spiritual beings, I'm not saying they are like a fog or something immaterial. No, they are real beings, but they are of a higher nature than us. They are spiritual in nature. They are not bound by, a physical realm, let's say. And this cherub was the highest of the angels. Now, I want you to notice in the text also, according to the prophet, when God created this angel, he gave them 3 gifts. He gave him 3 gifts. And what are the gifts? It says here, you were the seal of perfection. So when God created this cherub, there was nothing, apart from God, more perfect than this angel. It also says there that he was full of wisdom. How can someone be full of wisdom? I don't understand. But according to the scriptures, this angel was full of wisdom. And then it says that he was perfect in beauty. Ladies, how would you like to be perfect? Perfectly beautiful. Well, this angel was perfectly beautiful. He was perfect, he was wise, and he was perfectly beautiful. And then the prophet describes the glory of his creation in the language of stones. When you read the scriptures, you find out that the glory of God in the scriptures is described by stones, precious stones. What the Bible is telling us here is that this angel was covered in the glory of God. It must have been a sight to see him. Must have been a beautiful thing that day when he came to existence. The most perfect, the most beautiful, the most wise, covered in the glory of God. And God gave this angel a gift. Can you find out here in the text what was the gift that God gave this angel? It says here, the workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. God made this angel a musician. By nature, he was a musician. Why was he a musician by nature? Because of the position he occupied. The Bible tells us that cherubs live around the throne of God. There are 4 of them. And in a number of places in the scriptures, the Bible shows us that these angels are the ones who lead the universe in the worship of God. They begin singing, holy, holy, holy. And then the elders that are sitting around the throne, they also sing, holy, holy, holy. And then the whole created universe joins them saying, holy, holy, holy. So these angels, the cherubs, live right in front of the presence of God. They walk back and forth in the fiery stones. That's a symbol of the throne of God. That's where they live. This angel was one of them. What a privilege. How would you have loved to be able to exist in the presence of God? How would you love? Would you love to be the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most wise of all creation? Well, this angel didn't have to dream. He was created as such. Then the Bible tells us, dear friend, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14 and verse 12, the Bible gives us the name of